Hey there guys, EctoMaster here. We're playing World of Warcraft. Mr. Pandaria. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, Ecto. Aren't you doing a late night leveling and essentially playing World of Warcraft? Aren't you patiently awaiting Warlords of Draenor and playing that? Yes, to all of that. But this is a different kind of World of Warcraft. As you can see, we are actually in Pandaria. This is the Valley of the Four Winds, I believe. My mind is not where it should be. This is my level 86 warrior. We are leveling through this. No, I'm not doing a leveling guide. It's Sunday. It's early in the day. It's time for us to take a look at a case file. And this week's episode is Mr. Pandaria. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going, Ecto, you play games and you tend to review them after you've played them or have played most of them. WoW doesn't end. Yes, I know that. But this expansion is at an end. Warlords of Draenor is around the corner. And when I say it's around the corner, I mean it's not quite here yet. It should be here soon. Trademark. Blizzard. So I thought now was a good time to take a look at what this expansion was about, what I liked about the expansion, what I didn't like about the expansion, and what my final thoughts on it all is. Now, to understand where we are in the expansion, I want to do a little bit of a history lesson. We're going to go back 10 years to the start, World of Warcraft. And we're going to go up to where we are now. So just a brief history real quick. I do like to talk about the story and the lore behind this quite often in these videos. So to start with, World of Warcraft, you started out as a level 1 character. You still do whenever you create a new character. Start as level 1. Not going to talk about what's coming later in just a little bit. But started as a level 1, you went from 1 to 60. 60 you would begin raiding. After 2 years, they introduced the first expansion pack, which was the Burning Crusade, and raised the level cap to 70. You went to Outlands, of the leftover remnants of the planet known as Draenor. You leveled through that, got quite a few new things, new talents, new abilities, new, you get the flying mounts. I mean, there's quite a bit that you received from playing from doing Burning Crusade. Then came Wrath of the Lich King. Of course, you had to go to Northrend, fight the Lich King, and introduce a new class with the Death Knight. The previous expansion introduced new races that brought new classes to Horde and Alliance. Horde got Paladins, and Alliance got Shaman. They brought Blood Elves and the Draenei. Just to recap on Burning Crusade. Wrath of the Lich King, as I said, brought the Death Knights, went to Northrend, you battled the Lich King, and if you were one of the few, well, you can still go back and do it, but if you were one of the few lucky ones, you got to bring him down during Wrath of the Lich King. Which led us then to Cataclysm. Cataclysm was a revamp of the entire old content, so much so that it hurt the new content, which then brought us to Mr. Pandaria. Now, Mr. Pandaria, the whole plot is stemming from the last expansion pack. In the last expansion, the world was in upheaval, and some of the big names, namely Thrall, had to appoint some new type of people, mainly the promotion of Garrosh Hellscream into War Chief. A lot of people weren't all too happy with that because, hey, let's face it, nobody really liked Garrosh. He was brass, he was mean, nobody liked him because he's kind of a dick, okay? We'll just say that. He was a bit of a dick and nobody liked it. Which kind of, shocked everybody. And the start of this expansion, you find out that on the Alliance side, we know who it is. The Horde side, we don't know who it is, but you do find out about it. That Anduin, the son of King Varian Rin, Anduin Rin, has been not captured by the Horde yet, but he does get captured, I believe, at some point. And you are sent to this island that appeared out of nowhere, was hidden in the mist. And sure enough, it's Pandaria, and the Pandaren are there. Now, when this expansion was first announced, the Pandaren were looked at as like a lot of, I don't want to say idiots, but a lot of people, a lot of fans were like, really? We're getting talking pandas now? I mean, come on, really? I'm done. That's it, I'm done. My first critical reception of this, I wasn't all too excited about the Pandaren. Obviously, I'm playing one in the game. And I have quite a few of them, and there's a reason why, and I'll explain that in a few moments. But I have to sit back and laugh and go, between the cow people, the horse people, the fish people, the snake people, the space goat people, the werewolf dog people, do I need to continue? Between all of these other hybrid animal, you know what I mean, half man, half beast people, it's the Pandaren race that make people just flip tables. I don't really get that. And it's actually a joke the female Pandarans say that really, I think, kind of stuck it to those type of people, because the joke goes that she can't tell the difference. She doesn't know what is the difference between a Worgen and a Tauren. She doesn't know which one is a cow and which one is a dog. And at the very end, she goes, all these talking animals are so stupid. Thank you. Blizzard has a sense of humor. They heard all these people complaining and moaning about that. Threw that joke in there, kept it in there. That's why I play the female Pandaren, and I love that joke. See, simple things like that make me want to play things like this. So, you crash upon Pandaria, and then you go through it, and you find out all sorts of things happen. There's a great part of this where, for both the Alliance and the Horde, you're building up of this base on out in, I'm trying to remember the name of it, out off the Krasarang Wilds. There's an island that you're building your stuff up on, and you have quests and things to do like that, and it has a storyline, and it goes along that storyline, and it was a fantastic storyline. It basically was like the downfall for the Horde. It started with the downfall of Vol'jin, and then you're doing some side quests for Vol'jin and setting up for the Rebellion, which came in another patch, and that was fantastic. That was totally fun. The Rebellion set up for the Siege of Orgrimmar, which is basically the end of the expansion. Great stuff. I absolutely loved all of that. It was fantastic. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play all of my characters with all the content, and that's where some of it, I believe, suffered. For example, we don't see it in this video, but you do go to, when you're level 90, you have your main areas, the one for the Horde, one for the Alliance. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, I'm sorry. But it's the main places, got all the portals and things like that. And there are quests out there, and I'm going to get to that in a few moments. And you can no longer do those quests now because the way that they set up the story progression, that area that had the quest is gone. And in fact, spoiler alert, those quest givers are actually dead. And you fight them in the Siege of Orgrimmar, or what's left of them. They're tainted by the Shah, which is your big bad in this, and actually your big bad is Garrosh Hellscream, but he's corrupted by the Shah. The Shah is basically a version of the old gods. There, we got that all out of the way. This game brought a lot of, this expansion brought a lot of new stuff, though. For example, it brought a revamp to the talent system. Instead of getting, a talent point in Cataclysm, they revamped it to a talent point every other level. That was because the original talent system, to look at that, take a look at any of my Star Wars The Old Republic videos, because that is what the talent system for World of Warcraft used to look like. a lot of useless talents, a lot of stuff that was like, okay, so now that you did this, you're going to go do this. And it's going to give you plus, it's a passive ability, basically. And plus, 10 to crit. That's all it does for just this ability. And that's what it was. That's what the original talent system was like. They revamped it for this as they were looking at 90 levels into the game now. Instead of getting one talent point every level and then one talent point every other level, they put it up to one talent every 15 levels. Now, every 15 levels, you have 3 talents that you get to choose from, and you get to pick one of those. And you can swap them out, you can change them, and it really doesn't affect your gameplay, because it's more of a, like, for example, I have Shockwave. Now, Shockwave used to be a pure defensive style of attack for a warrior. I have it on a Fury-based warrior. Why? Because it was a personal choice, and I thought Shockwave was a fun ability when I did tanking for a little bit. Not on this character, trust me. Well, on this character, but a long time ago. And I thought Shockwave was pretty cool, so I was real glad that they made it a talent that you could choose. And I took it. For my Death Knight, I know looking ahead, they have one that's like the Breath of Syndragosa that they're calling right now. I totally want that. But they have two other ones that look really cool as well. So the change to the talent system I really did like. The one thing that was very disappointing is they did open up with a lot of 5-man dungeons that leveled alongside you. And when I say leveled alongside, like you had one that was 85, you had one that was 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. But there wasn't really a lot of 5-mans at the end. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's heroics. You can run those over and over and over and over and over again, but there weren't any new ones. And when I say, again, when I think of that, I think back to Wrath of the Lich King, and that they had those epic dungeons for the 3 that opened up. You had the one, I can't remember, the Forge of Souls, and I can't remember the other 2. Forge of Souls is the ones that I remember the most because we ran that ad nauseum. That was kind of disappointing. A lot of people didn't really know what to do from there, because you had this new thing come in, the flexible raid and the looking for raid and things like that. Now, looking for raid came in the last expansion pack, but they also introduced a new aspect called flex raids in this expansion, which is very important because it's going to play big time into the next expansion. Totally, because the flex rate is going to be anything from 10 to 25. And that includes your looking for raid, which is fantastic, because if you have a looking for raid that is 13 people, it's going to scale to 13 people. It's not going to scale, you're not going to be sitting there waiting for 25 people to show up. That's just great. I love that. At least that is the belief that we have. And that was introduced in this expansion pack. To be quite perfectly honest, I have done nothing but LFR. Unfortunately, the guild that you actually see that I'm in, this is the latest character to be jumping onto that guild in a little over a week. It's kind of sad, I know. After that, it was all my characters that jumped in within the last 2 weeks, and nobody else has played in this guild. The reason I haven't left is that a lot of stuff is, all my characters there. I don't want to go looking for another guild, and I'm hoping that a lot of people come back. Quite a few, getting into it personally, quite a few came back, but then stopped, and then came back, and then stopped. That's it, that type of thing. Anyways, enough about me griping about my guild. Let's talk about the game. Now, the one thing that they introduced in this game that is definitely being amped up and ramped up and in the next expansion pack is the farm. Now, the farm was, pardon me here as I adjust everything. I'm sitting here going, all my stuff is kind of like, if you pause the video now, you can see exactly how many characters I have and where they're all at. The farm was really, really good, and in fact, everybody was like, oh, player housing, player housing, where's the player housing? Technically, that's what the farm was. The farm was player housing. especially with one of the updates in one of the content patches. They updated the farm so that you took over the farm from the NPC who quote unquote ran it. You actually ran it. You just kind of did quests for him, which again we will get to in just a few moments. It was the first attempt at player housing. You could set your Hearthstone to it. You could grow herbs. You could grow crops that would get you that you could use for cooking, and you also had specialty items that could get mining. Or as you see off to the right, I have the motes of harmony. Wow, the motes of harmony. You could get things to do that, and so that was really, really cool. I liked it, and again, it was the first foray into player housing, and which we will be getting garrisons in the next expansion pack, which is the farm amped up like times a million. Now Blizzard is known for doing this. They started doing it actually, I think around Wrath of the Lich King or so. There's quite a few things that they started doing. If you remember Wrath of the Lich King, phasing was first started pretty much with the Death Knight starting area, and that there was phasing technique done with that. You couldn't see anything. Now they use phasing fantastically in this game. You don't even know, a lot of times you don't even know that it's happening. It just happens. You'll know it if you're grouped up with somebody and you do one quest and you go into a phase and they haven't completed it yet and they're not there yet. You see that kind of phasing. Sometimes you'll even see that phasing before that happens. You'll be standing in an area right next to your buddy and go, man, I see this crap, why don't you? They started really using it. Again, in Burning Crusade, they started bombing runs. And man, were those bombing runs terrible. If you want a great example of early bombing runs, go play Star Wars, The Old Republic. Do any of the spaceship missions that you have. Those are the World of Warcraft bombing runs. On rails. And if you have to kill 30 guys and you kill 29 and you can't find number 30, you can go back and do it again. And it will, if it took you like 5 minutes to kill those 29, it's going to take you 2 seconds to kill number 30. And then you have 4 minutes and 58 seconds to go read a book or get some food or you name it. Because it is going to go right back. Now I keep on praising what this expansion did, but there was some bad with it as well. There's some other good stuff like the pet battle system, which I don't feature in this. I've only dabbled that in a little bit. I know quite a few people who have played that to the end, and they absolutely love it. I know everybody, oh, it's World of Warcraft Pokemon, derp derp derp. That's fine. Let it be World of Warcraft Pokemon. Whatever gets people to play the game, I'm all for it, because this game, even after nearly 10 years, is still fantastic. But there is one good change they made that led to a lot of griping. Prior to this expansion in Cataclysm, there were quite a lot of dailies that you had to do, and for factions, in order to get certain prizes. And you had a daily cap of 25 daily quests. Or it was 20, or something like that. You could only do so many. And you would literally have like 30. So there was sometimes you had to pick and choose on what days you could do what quests. And if you didn't want to do these quests, if you wanted to catch up on B instead of, faction B instead of faction A, then you had to set faction A aside to work on faction B. So Blizzard announced, that's it, we're doing away with the daily quest limit. Brought lots of cheers. The problem was they implemented way too many dailies. I mean, way too many dailies. It was like, and that was part of the end game. The dailies were part of the end game. You had to do dailies in order to raise your faction level instead of the tabards. The tabards I thought were a great idea. You wore a tabard, you go through your heroic dungeons, you get the experience. In the past, you would go through a specific dungeon to get that experience for that faction alone. Then they introduced tabards that you could wear that would get you experience for that faction of that tabard in any dungeon that you ran. Then they did away with that and instead introduced daily upon daily upon daily upon daily upon daily upon daily. If I was to jump onto one of my level 90s right now as I get stuck on everything, you would see that there are. If I went over to the cooking area to where the farm is, there are a ton of dailies just there alone. If I went out there, if I went to, I mean, there were just so many dailies for this game, for this expansion pack, that Blizzard actually turned around and said there would be a lot less dailies in the end game in Warlords of Draenor, because it became one of those where I don't want to do it. Dailies used to be interesting because there weren't so many of them, so you could do less than 25 in a day and it wasn't a problem. Then they introduced way too many dailies for the 25 cap, and you had to pick and choose what you could do. Then, last but not least, they removed the cap, but introduced even more dailies. I'm glad that Blizzard learned their lesson from this, but it kind of killed the game a little bit on this end. What also killed this game to me, it's not dead, but what kind of like ended the expansion for me, I still have not completed Siege of Orgrimmar. I plan on doing that, maybe not on my warrior, but I do have a couple of level 90 Death Knights, as well as couple of level 90 monks. And I would love to continue and finish that up. One of my Alliance monk, I probably will finish the Siege of Orgrimmar, though I would love to do it on one of my hordes. I just don't know if I will. It's just that, unfortunately, because there was no fix to the guild, to my guild, I just have not had the chance to do so. And I'm stuck with running with LFR. And the problem with LFR that it will be fixed with the next expansion. If the flexible raid does, and I do believe it goes and extends towards LFR, it'll definitely help out those that, like myself, I don't tank, I don't heal, I run DPS. Because my Death Knight was DPS, and I was been raiding since Wrath as DPS. I'm not really... It's not that I'm willing to change, it's like I don't know how to tank as a Death Knight, and I would have to teach myself the game all over again, get all better gear. To me, it's a lot of work just to try and save myself 10 minutes on a queue. Or 20 minutes. Hopefully the flex raid will, as I said, I think it extends to it. I'm not positive. Correct me if I'm wrong, feel free. But I think it extends to LFR, and if it does, it will definitely help out this game quite a bit for those that are unable to raid with a guild, even if they are in one. It'll help out. That being said, my final thoughts on this. Great expansion, definitely better than what we had in Cataclysm. Cataclysm was fun, but after a while, it's just like, okay. Even this, now that I'm getting towards the end of it, this is one of the last few 85 ups that I have. I am thankful for the coming expansion. I can't wait. And here's hoping that I get into the beta, because if I'm in the beta, I will be bringing you guys content. I can almost guarantee you that something is going to give in order for me to bring you content. I may be bringing you nightly content, and ignore that one comment from that random horde guy. I'm playing, and all of a sudden I see his Stinky Alliance, and I'm not going to say the word that he says because I just don't want to say it. Other than that, that's all I have for you guys. I love this expansion. I'm glad that it brought the changes that it did. The monk class, I didn't talk about them very much. It was probably one of my favorite classes to play. I started up a monk literally the night the game dropped, and I leveled that one. I power leveled up to 90. It even superseded my main Death Knight. I kind of just, I went straight into a monk and just started playing from there. I loved it. Loved the monk class. I cannot wait for Warlords of Draenor. So until next week, where I pick another game, where I sit back and review, I will see you guys next time.
Hi there. Tell me a story before you go.